Alright, so when you practice drawing, what's exactly going on inside of your head? So, you've got a brain, right? And our brains are filled with all these neurons. And these neurons kind of like connect with each other and form all these neural pathways and circuits and connections and stuff. And how good the drawing turns out, so how good you are in drawing certain stuff, or just drawing in general, is basically just determined by how strong those particular neural circuits are. So if you're really good at drawing the human body, you've got really strong neural connections for drawing the human body. If you suck, if you're kind of trash, then your neural circuits for that are you got the point, right? And so when we want to improve our drawing, what we essentially want to do is strengthen our neural connections, right? We want to sit down and put our brains into this kind of like optimal state where it's going to be able to efficiently strengthen our neural connections, because that's literally what leads to us improving at drawing. And the main thing that puts our brains into this kind of like neural strengthening zone state is making mistakes. Sitting down to practice, making tons and tons of mistakes, and like getting frustrated and wanting to pull your hair out. That's kind of like exactly what we want, because that's what triggers the brain to actually begin to somewhat feel the need to begin strengthening your neural connections, which is going to literally lead to you improving.
So what happens is when we make errors, the nervous system starts releasing neurotransmitters and neuromodulators that say we better change something in the circuitry. And so errors are the basis for neuroplasticity and for learning.
That's kind of why it's essential that whatever the stuff that you're practicing is actually hard. It's actually challenging, because it's something I've mentioned before, but you kind of really shouldn't like most of your practice drawings, because whenever you practice, you don't want to be working on stuff that's too easy, because you're not going to learn anything, and you don't want to be working on something that's too hard, because you're not going to learn anything. You want to kind of be in this kind of sweet zone where the difficulty of the thing that you're practicing is kind of like slightly beyond your skill level, because that's what's going to induce a good amount of mistakes, which, as you said, is exactly what we want. So that's something I want you to kind of remember. Making mistakes puts your brain into neural strengthening mode. And it's kind of like the quote that goes, "The master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried," which is like, okay, one, you need to fail, but not just fail, you need to fail a lot, like ruthlessly fail over and over again. Because one thing about the way our brains work is, the more frequently a neural connection is used, the stronger it's gonna get. So the way you want to think of it is, with whatever the stuff that you're practicing is, you want to get in as many repetitions of that thing as you can within the drawing session. Kind of like maximum repetitions per unit time. So say you suck at hands and you want to improve at that, right? You'd be very well served by sitting down and trying to study and break down and draw lots and lots and lots of hands within each individual drawing session that you do, without like paying attention to unnecessary details like the wrinkles and the veins and stuff like that, because this is going to give you more space to get more repetitions in and get your neural circuits for drawing hands firing more and more and more often, which is going to lead to them strengthening faster. It's kind of cool. But obviously this doesn't mean go out there and try and carelessly draw as fast as you can just to get more repetitions in, because you still need to be actually like immersed in each individual thing that you draw. Because repetitions aside, like 100% focus or attentiveness, or like, concentratedness is genuinely one of the most important factors to improving faster. But it's also like one of the hardest to do, because have you ever tried to sit down and focus on a singular task for like an hour? Bro, it's hard. Especially when you're drawing, because when you're drawing, it's very easy to kind of just be drawing passively, right? You're just kind of there. Yeah, sure, you're drawing, you're there physically moving your hand on the page, I guess, but it just doesn't hold a candle to actually being attentive as you draw. So how do we deal with this? How do we become better at focusing so that we can improve the overall quality of each of our drawing sessions? You see, focus, right, attentiveness or whatever, is an entire topic on its own, but like, I don't care, let's talk about it. It's some pretty cool stuff. So how to focus. Alright, so before trying to focusedly or attentively draw, there's a few things you want to do beforehand to kind of prime your brains, right? Kind of like putting gas in a car so that it's actually capable of driving for 10 hours or something. There's some stuff you want to do to kind of put your brain in the position, kind of put gas in the tank so it's actually capable of focusing even before you sit down to draw. And there's a lot of things you can do for this, but I'm only just going to talk about two of them and keep it super simple. The first one is sleep, which is a super boring answer, but sleep and getting good quality sleep is just so essential to overall cognitive function that I just can't not mention it. And it's going to contribute a lot to giving your brain like the energy to actually focus in the first place. And in addition to that, this is something I've talked about before, but you generally want to be avoiding, or at least really limiting, your exposure to like super stimulating stuff. So something you've heard a billion times before, but you probably don't want to be spending like 12 hours a day on TikTok or something like that. Or like short form content is a really good example, because it exposes your brain to like 1,000 new things every 10 minutes or something, and it makes it a lot harder to sit down for 1 hour, for example, and focus on just one task and just focus on whatever it is you're drawing. So like, yeah. Alright, so that's some stuff to kind of actually put your brain in the position and give it the capability to focus. What about actually improving your focus whilst you're drawing? So improving your focus here is a lot like getting stronger in the gym. So if you want to get big muscles, you know, you lift heavy weight, and over time, in order to accommodate the stress that you're putting on it, your muscles are going to begin to grow. And it's literally the exact same thing here. So in order to improve your focus, you know, we've got all these like mechanisms and circuits and stuff in our head that are dedicated to focus. So if you want to get to focusing better, you want to be utilizing these mechanisms more often. So in order to improve your focus, you need to be attempting or trying to focus more often. So what would this look like? Say you sit down to draw for an hour. You're not gonna focus for the entire hour, bro. Right? Let's be real, right? However, you're gonna try your best, right? So, you know, you sit down, you begin drawing, and after like 2 minutes or something, after like 30 seconds, your attention is gonna drift. You're gonna lose focus. So you're still gonna be drawing, but you're gonna be like thinking about some other stuff. And after like maybe 10 minutes, you realize that your attention is drifted. So you deliberately bring it back and try to refocus on your drawing session. But then after like 47 seconds or something, your attention is gonna drift again. And after like 5 minutes, you're gonna realize it's drifted, and you bring it back. And it's just that cycle of your attention drifting whilst you're drawing, you realizing that it's drifted, and then bringing it back and deliberately refocusing on the stuff that you're drawing. And just doing that cycle deliberately over and over and over again can contribute a lot to improving your ability to focus, thereby getting you to making the most out of each drawing session that you have, thereby getting you to improve faster. It's just kind of sick, right? So our brains are really weird, right? But they're also kind of sick. So say after you're done practicing, you've done it all. You've tried your best to focus throughout the session. You got me out the zone, bro. Damn. So our brains are really weird, but they're also kind of sick. So say after your drawing session, you've done it all. You've tried your best to focus throughout the session, and you know, the session was hard enough, so you made a good amount of mistakes, and you also got a good amount of repetitions in. So yeah, great, yay, yeah, pat on the back, bro, I guess. But what comes afterwards? So what do you want to do after your drawing session in order to really maximize your art gains and really maximize your progress in a sense? So basically, the best thing you can do post drawing routine is and I'll explain to you why. So after you finish your drawing session, your brain is gonna kind of look back on the session that you've just had, and it's gonna begin to replay the neural sequences that were involved in that session. So it's kind of like your brain is gonna subconsciously begin re-experiencing, like reliving the drawing session that you've just had. And during this replay, your brain is gonna prioritize replaying the neural sequences involved in the stuff that you got right, kind of in order to reinforce it. So say for example, you sat down and you were practicing hands today, and you did 10 hands, right? And 3 of them you actually liked, you thought they were pretty good, and the other 7 were kind of trash, right? Your brain is going to prioritize replaying the neural sequences involved in the drawing of those 3 hands in order to like really like solidify that information, which is kind of cool, right? However, this whole neural replay thing is a process that can be very easily interfered with. If say you finish drawing and you go and like binge YouTube videos or hop on Crunchyroll or do whatever. Just do something that's gonna kind of distract your brain and deprive it of the ability to do this neural replay thing. So what do you want to do instead if this is something you want to take advantage of? So what you want to be doing instead is put down, finish your drawing session, yay, and then kind of just like sit there, like lie down or whatever for like 5 or 10 or 20 minutes and kind of just do nothing. Or you can, if you're feeling fancy, you can go out on a walk or something, or just do some task that doesn't require you to really pay too much focus to it, where you can kind of just allow your mind to just drift and allow your attention to wander as much as you can. And this is going to give your brain the space to subconsciously replay like the neural sequences stuff, which is kind of cool. Bro, this whole neural replay thing is one of the coolest things I've ever learned about the brain, and it occurs at 2 points in time. So it occurs, as we just talked about, right after your drawing session, but it also occurs during sleep. So yeah, we're going to talk about sleep for the second time today. Gah. So sleep is something I've talked about in a previous video, and I'm going to say it again because I had a lot of people commenting on that video saying, "Ooh, I'm watching this at 3 a.m. Ooh, I'm watching this at 4 a.m. bro." Ugh. Or like some other devilish hour, right? And it's like, bro, please sleep. Okay, because your brain needs sleep to do a lot of things, but it also needs sleep to do the whole neural replay thing and help you improve faster at drawing, amongst a trillion other benefits you get from sleeping. Did I just say amongst? Because this might sound a bit weird, so I'm gonna go on a bit of a tangent, but you don't actually improve at drawing while you're practicing. And I'll explain it this way, right? Another gym analogy. So if you're like trying to get big muscles in the gym, your muscles aren't growing in the moment that you're lifting the weight. The actual growth of the muscles occurs between workouts. It occurs during recovery. And it's a pretty similar situation here with drawing, where sure, like sometimes you might be practicing drawing and you might feel yourself get better as the session goes along. That might happen. But in terms of the overall long-term improvement in your drawing, it doesn't occur while you're drawing. It occurs while you sleep. Because you know how earlier in the video we talked about how improving at drawing is basically just you trying to strengthen your drawing neural connections, right? See, while you're practicing drawing, what you're essentially doing is putting in a request, like putting in an order, saying like, "Yo, Mr. Brain, what's good? I want to strengthen these particular neural connections. So will you do that for me, pretty please?" And your brain is going to receive these orders of which neural connections you want to strengthen. And these orders are fulfilled during sleep. So while you're asleep is when the actual physical strengthening of the neural connections is actually occurring. That's kind of cool, right? Yeah, so shout out to sleep, bro. Top 10 things of all time if you ask me.